Welcome to the demolition episode of the International Society of Explosive Engineers web series, Explosives Every Day, where we look at how explosives are used in a variety of applications. My name is Alistair Torrance, and I'm the President of the ISEE. Our organisation started in 1974 when a group of like-minded people got together in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to discuss how to better apply commercial explosives and how to champion the blaster in the field. Move forward to today, and we're an international organisation with more than 4,000 members spread over 90 countries with a mission to advance the science and art of explosive engineering worldwide. We do this through sharing our knowledge and providing training and education for everyone involved with blasting. We also have a strong education foundation and have awarded more than $1 million in scholarships to our students in our industry. Before we get started, I'd like to thank our series partners, Dyno Nobel, OPIT Blast and LDE Global. This series would not have been possible without their tremendous support. This episode highlights how explosives are used for the demolition of structures. This episode's sponsors are Sigicom and Accurate Energetic Systems, and here's a little bit about them.
Sigicom is a Swedish multinational company that develops, manufactures, rents, and markets products used to monitor environmental parameters such as vibration, noise and air pressure, mainly to the professional end users. Several mega projects, as well as everyday users around the world, choose Sigicom's infrasystem to ensure that the environmental parameters of their projects are controlled, stored, and presented in the best possible way.
For over 40 years, AES has supplied their customers in both commercial and defense markets with products that perform reliably in the most austere conditions. They supply copper-clad linear-shaped charges for building demolition, cast boosters for blasting operations, specialty formulated explosive compositions for oil well perforating charges, custom breaching charges, and explosive components used in munitions applications around the world.
Our presenters are Jim Redyke, President of Dykon Explosive Demolition, Ron Gilbert, Vice President of Dykon Explosive Demolition, and Roberto Folchi, owner of Nitrex. Jim Redyke is the President and owner of Dykon Explosive Demolition, and he has over 40 years of experience in the industry. Dykon's services include implosions, demolition of chimneys, bridges, piers, industrial structures, reinforced concrete, and also vessel cleaning. Ron Gilbert has also been in the industry for nearly 40 years and is currently Vice President of Dykon Explosives Demolition. He's had experience as a lead blaster, explosives manufacturing, sales and training, and also in explosives demolition. So Ron and Jim are going to share their experiences of building demolition contractors over their more than 70 years of combined experience. We're going to watch them take down 3 775-foot tool stacks and a large steel industrial structure and give us some insights as it goes ahead. So Roberto Folchi is an Italian contractor who has been applying explosive engineering to building and bridge demolition, open pit and underground excavations, tunnelling and underwater demolition. He was educated as a mining engineer and also had time in the Italian military. In his working life, he's been a consultant, a contractor, and also worked for an explosive manufacturer. In his work, he's pioneered the use of shaped charges for underwater excavations. During this presentation, we're going to see some of the bridge and water tower demolition that he's been involved with. There's going to be a question and answer session with the presenters right after these presentations. The panel will discuss many questions that were asked by a live audience at the time of this episode's first airing. So now it's time to learn how a small amount of explosive applied in just the right manner can bring down very large industrial structures as we look at how explosives are used in the demolition industry.
Jim Redyke, president of Dykon Explosive Demolition. Primarily, Dykon acts as a subcontractor to a prime demolition contractor, so it's a team effort for our hour. We say to them, we'd like you to prepare the building in this way, gut the building out, clean it out, do this, take this section of the building down conventionally, then we call it open it up, clean all the stuff out of the building and leave it just on its bare columns so we can see nothing but columns, whether it's concrete or steel. Can continue to develop a plan of how we're going to torch, either if it's steel or drill holes or so forth. We add our expertise, add the explosives, provide insurance, and push the button and go home.
Want to tell me why you're spraying the box here?
So Brother Jim knows we did. We check it because we checked it. And you can stand down there and they say, oh look, they must have checked it.
Right. Now, do you think we need to speed the time up through here? If that's the case, we're only 200 milliseconds between those delays.
I don't
those
think so,
columns.
because I think the preset boxes will keep everything moving
Okay.
evenly now. Plus, you got this front wall is heavily trussed.
Correct.
They're not going to just. They're
Not going to shear. You're not going to get column
They're going
shear.
to be trying to be pulling this.
Right. Okay. All right.
There it went.
Take your time now. Awesome. And then there's previously cured foam tied. You tying your knots and taping them up good?
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
Tying up those tails.
Then you'll foam yours after you tied it up.
Yep, it's all good.
Oh, good, right here in the hinge. Now, we worried about that reduced burden causing any fly?
I light loaded them for that reason.
That's a darn good answer.
Want to make sure we kick it. One chance.
One shot, one kill, right?
That's right. Infantry.
Infantry. Hoorah.
These holes are drilled on 18-inch centers. The holes are about 15-inch in depth, loaded with nitroglycerin or stick dynamite, primed with det cord, 25 grain det cord, all tied in together at once. So this will all shoot at one time to knock out this wedge, to make the center of gravity fall this direction and knock the stack over.
Dynamite.
Here we are in the number 2 tower. Dykon has all the holes tied in with det cord.
Take a piece of tape. See right here, for instance, we've got wire and cord. You see how loosey-goosey that det cord is?
Yeah.
I don't like that. I don't like that. And I don't like right here. We have room to tape here, and we got a place here to tie it
4
up.
more inches to just take the whole works and tie it up.
Yes, and the 4 inches will affect it. You don't want that loosey slop in here, because when det cord fires, it acts like a whip. And the whipping action of the det cord, when it's loose like that, can actually break itself. And we don't want that. That big shear is going to lift that piece of flat metal, put it up, prop it against the stack, the door hole on this end with the exposed deck. Well, when the first stack falls and is tipping over, if for some reason there's a delay and that stack continues and hits the ground, the open end of the stack as it hits is like a bag of potato chips. All that air collapses, the air blows out the back of the stack. So if this air is forced back, then stack number 2, that door opening is going to get smashed with the air pressure and debris, and it can cut our deck cord off, and it's just a chance we're not going to take. So we have the time and the resources. We'll put that steel plate up there just like this box to protect any of that flying frag from hitting the next target. These bars on the back, I've marked them. They get torch cut the morning of the shot. Technically, that's the only thing holding this stack up small, because the rest have been cut. So we cut those final bars at the very last segment of our.
So they'll be cut the morning of the shot.
Shot, you're going to have a trunk line, and this is our trunk line here. So what we're doing is we're taking each of the detonators and we're clipping them into our trunk line. And then what we'll do probably tomorrow is go through and, based upon our timing chart, scan the dets and program the dets.
I am Roberto Folchi, owner of Nitrex, a company that specializes in use of explosives for breach demolition, control blasting for open pit and underground and underwater. While most of our jobs are in Italy, we have work also in Africa, Asia and America in tunneling projects, dam construction, underwater and mining. Traveling is not an issue for us. I got my start in the business in 1982 as a technician trainee in an explosives engineering consulting firm in Rome. This was 2 years before I got graduated at the University of Rome in mining engineering. 1 year after graduation, I served in the Army Corps of Engineers, from which I took leave as a second lieutenant. During the military service, I also got my license in engineering and license in geology. After the military service, I worked as a freelance engineer, consulting general contractor firms and mining firms for controlled use of explosives for demolition and mining projects, tunneling, bench blasting, ground vibration monitoring, and all related activities. I also worked for energetic materials factories assessing risk and computing probability of occurrence and extension of iso-damage area for major accidents. In the year 2000, I founded Nitrex as a demolition and controlled blasting firm, contractor, because I wanted to work with my own equipment and specialized equipment and specialized and well-trained personnel. What was happening during the time that construction company and also mining company face a decay in technical competences, which is continuing still now. And they could give me less and less specialized person for the job. So I was obliged to do the job turnkey with my people and equipment. I never consider hours to be a real job, properly said, more a hobby. Since day one I felt so much involved in it that was never a problem for me to work many hours a day, to study until late hours, to work on site under hot sun. Under the rain, strong wind, freezing snow, day, nights, sometimes days and nights. In my almost 40 years of activity, I faced so many different work contexts and challenging projects, such that time in which I worked for a demolition project in a nuclear power plant, or that time where I had to make the excavation underwater up to a depth of 100 meters, about 300 feet, developing, designing and building fit for the purpose shape charges and the deployment system, or when working in hydroelectric plants, blasting very close to the turbines while they were spinning, and so many other projects. This is Bergamo city center with its old buildings since the Middle Age to modern times. A very challenging neighborhood for blasting operations. This is Ripafrata Bridge, to be demolished quick and tidy in order to do not interrupt too long traffic train below, and also to do not damage a bridge ahead, another bridge before, Also, those two not in good shape. Two carriageway road viaducts gone out of service due to overpassing its life cycle, as so many other bridges in reinforced concrete built before year 1980, which are ready to be blasted, spans and pylons together in a reverse domino. Positano, Amalfi Coast, in southern Italy, an iconic touristic place. Many historical buildings, some of them from year 1600 and in bad shape, needed not to be stressed too much. And the occupants also, and especially, better to put in place several ground vibration and noise monitoring stations. Tearing down a bridge superstructure, it is possible and most convenient also in case its own pylons are to be kept safe, and also if another bridge is standing close by. This is an old twin arch bridge to be demolished one after the other, the second one 8 months later, to keep traffic on carriageway going on in both directions while completing the construction of the new bridge in the same place of the old one being demolished. The Pecorone Bridge, another bridge took down with a reverse domino. Rovigo water tower, 82 meters high, tilted with explosives. The Kabbalah Bridge, another one to be demolished with explosive. You're asking me what's the most difficult job I have ever done? The next one is, until it is done, and then again the next. This is what makes our work wonderful. Fueling your heart with extraordinary emotion and keeping your mind focusing on what it does really matters.
And come up through the ranks. You got to be willing to get dirty, get your hands involved, your feet into it, put your heart and soul into it. Then you'll find your direction.
Certainly people are important, but from a structural standpoint, you look at how the building is being prepared. So in developing your demolition plan, how you prepare the building allows it to be left in a stable position, so when you're working in there and doing your thing, you're not going to cause a problem. So you manage that sort of the risk and the preparation in developing your plan and in preparing the structure. And then you manage risk by preparing and protecting the surrounding structures depending on your exposure. If you're in a downtown environment, you got a group of buildings across the street, you better board up the windows and cover them all up and do all that. And then you manage risk by pre-blast surveying and seismic monitoring. That's absolutely key to any kind of a blast. You get some basic blasting experience, learning explosives, learning burden spacing relationship, powder factors, learning what to do and what it takes.
My favorite projects are my last project. Every single project that we've done, that we've done as a team together in other places, in other countries, in other parts of the world, the last one is always the best one. And I say that because it was successful in more ways, whether it functioned the way we wanted it to or not. It was successful in the fact that we had a chance to bond together as a team that we share our knowledge and our lessons learned, and we're able to live another day.
Drones, clear. Copy all clear. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lord, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. Oh, thank you, Lord. Fall short. God bless. I got to hug somebody. It's a long 5 seconds, isn't it? What do you think there, Clark?
Well, I think the presenters did a great job on showing how technical our industry can be. Our question and answer session with moderator Travis Davis-Saver, ISEE board member and emerging professional section chairperson, begins now. So take it away, Travis.
Well, thanks again, Alistair. We really appreciate our sponsors, and without them, we certainly would not have been able to bring this 10-part, 5-night free webinar series to you. Now let's talk live with our panelists, Jim and Steve in Texas, Ron in Melbourne, Australia, Roberto in Northern Italy, and they're all ready and excited to answer your questions about how they use explosives in the practice of demolition. And if you've got any questions, please send them in via the question and answer box. Let us know where you're from. And as you ask your question, if you want to direct it to one of our panelists, just let us know who, and we'll make sure that it gets to them. So our first question this evening, let me pull up my questions here. Our first question this evening is for Ron, and it comes from Bill in Illinois. Bill's asking, Ron, why do you use the spray foam in the holes, the drill holes, to protect the powder?
Well, Bill, we use NG dynamite, and the spray foam gives us a tad bit of security. It does a little bit of weatherproofing, and it gives us a check and balance to make sure the charges haven't been tampered with. Doesn't do a darn thing for stemming, but we're not using it for that.
So, Roberto, are you using a similar process in Italy to secure the boreholes?
Yes, we do. Secure the boreholes Also, one of the reasons why we use foam is to prevent in sequential blasting that charges are sucked out from the hole for the pressure of air of the previous explosion. So guarantee you charge remains in the hole and are not taken out in a sequential explosion.
All right, thanks, Roberto. Our next question is for all of our panelists, and it comes from Scott. Scott's asking, what is a good alternative explosive to NG dynamite for demolition blasting? And I'll start with Jim.
Say the question again. I didn't hear.
Scott's asking what a good alternative explosive to NG dynamite might be for demolition blasting.
Well, NG dynamite will always be the best. There are the slurries and the emulsions, but while they work, they're not as effective as the NG product.
How about you, Ron? What's your thoughts on that?
God let us have dynamite. We're going to use NG dynamite wherever we can, boys and girls. It is very unforgiving, and it does exactly what we want it to do.
Now, Roberto, do you have easy access to NG dynamite for demolition purposes in Italy?
Yes, we also for us, NG dynamites are the best choice. You can cut the cartridge in pieces, and sometimes we use 30 grams or even less charges, that you cannot have with slurry or with emulsion explosive. So have a smaller size than the cartridge itself. We use also, especially when we need to have 7 grams, very low quantity of explosive as an alternative to NG dynamites. We use detonating cord, which are very reliable. Of course, we don't like very much emulsion because they are very difficult to have very low sensitive. So NG dynamites option number 1, detonating cord option number 2.
All right, thanks, Roberto. Our next question is another question for Ron, and it comes from Vic in Canada. Vic says, it looks like you have a lot of fun at work. What do you do to keep that attitude in such a high consequence setting, such as explosive demolition?
Because I know why I'm here. I got put here. The Lord gave me a talent and a skill, and I'm using it. And I love being around people, working with various contractors and suppliers. Couldn't ask for better. I'm down here in Australia now working with a fantastic team because Brother Jim's allowed me to be, and we're going to make the most of it. We love this work. I love the pressure. If it wasn't for the pressure, I'd be doing something else. I love it.
So Ron, let's see, Jim and Steve, how do you harness that energy and excitement from Ron on every job site?
I'll let you answer that one, Steve.
We just keep it going straight in the correct direction. We always move forward, don't we, Ron?
We're a team. Love it. Love you guys. All of you. Look, the industry's absolutely best ever. Couldn't be in a better spot.
So our next question is for Roberto, and it comes from Tony in Montana. Roberto, how hard is it for you to perform blasting across so many different countries?
Well, it's not hard at all. It's what makes this work nice. You change environment, you leave environment. What you normally see on television, you get from direct feeling. You can get the smell. Different people. Regarding the job itself, it's when you work, you do not even consider to be in one single part of the world. You are concentrating on the project. Really what it really matters is the project itself, but traveling, it's really a very nice part of our world, changing culture, cuisine, and seeing different mentality, culture. It's really a very good part of what makes our work exceptional, very, very beautiful.
All right, thanks, Roberto. Our next question is coming from Jack, and Jack is asking all of our panelists, what are the white protective coverings around some of the blast areas? Are they identifiers or weather protection? And let's start with Roberto on that question.
Well, I guess that the reference is made to tissue, which is normally placed to reduce the dust. At least to try to reduce the dust. You have several kind of cover to prevent fly rock, which is the biggest problem, biggest issue with blasting. But you normally use heavier mats, blasting mats. The best of all are the Macella blasting mats. They are made in America. They are made with steel ropes venting, so they allow the gases from explosion to blow out and keep all the fragments in it. The white is tissue to stop a little bit of dust. What you are really worried is fragments, so fragmentation, fly rock, and for that you use blasting mats.
All right, so Ron, I know when I was on site with you for those 3 towers, you had all of the explosives encased in that wooden box that was wrapped in Tyvek fabric. Do you want to give us a little more detail on what that does for those shape charges on metal?
Well, the shape charges are inherently heavy frag producing. The shape charges that we use are manufactured by Accurate Energetics. They do a phenomenal job of severing the steel. They do a marvelous job of generating fragmentation. That said, to mitigate the frag from damaging adjacent charges, we put the wooden boxes in the protective covering. You saw the white. There's different colors of material, different manufacturers. There's a lot of good tools out there on the market that we're still searching and trying now. Roland Alfred is doing a marvelous job down here of testing some new material. We'll find out about that at the end of the month. And so we're constantly looking as a team to mitigate the amount of the fragmentation. So those boxes, that material is in the event to mitigate that fragmentation. We don't like frag. You saw it in the video. Can't stand it.
I would say that there's the fragmentation poses more than one threat once those materials start flying off site.
Roger that. We want to be home safe. We want everybody home safe. And that little bit of protection gets us there.
Certainly. Our next question is for Jim, and it comes from Vladimir, who's in Europe. Vladimir has indicated that you're using many kinds of explosives in your work. Are they custom built for what you do?
There's only one manufacturer for linear shape charges in America for cutting steel, which is Accurate Energies. And again, it's not NG Dynamite is our first choice, as everybody would say. So those are the 2 work tools that we use primarily, as well as Primacord. We love to use Primacord as well, but most of that stuff is right off the shelf from different suppliers, so it's not particularly customized for our work.
So Jim, how do you decide which shape charges to use on a specific project?
The thickness of the steel determines the size of the shape charge you're going to use, unless it's a special heavy dense steel like a T1 or something, and then you have to increase the size of the shape charge. The shape charges are made in various sizes for cutting certain thicknesses.
All right. Thanks, Jim. Our next question is from Roberto, and it comes from Jerry Wallace, who's in Washington. Jerry says he knows you've taken down a lot of bridges. What's the total number of bridges you've now successfully taken down, Roberto?
113 until now. 113 bridges, which I cannot tell you exactly the number of spans, but it exceeds the 800 spans in total, and more than 600 pylons. Normally, or maybe frequently, you only demolish spans, and the pylons are kept for the new superstructure. The bridge we demolish are reinforced concrete. The new superstructure is normally made of steel, so it's lighter, and so the old pylons can be used, properly used for giving to the bridge another 200 years of life cycle of life. So
an awful lot of bridges that have met their demise with your expertise, Roberto. Now, Jim, how about you? How many structures have you taken down in your career?
Oh, several thousand. I lost count, and I don't even know how many spans of bridges.
All right. The next question we've got here is we'll start with Ron, and it comes from Bill in Nevada. Bill is wondering, Ron, if you practice before you take down a new structure.
Well, Mom always said you practice in the backyard before you ever go public. The problem with doing that nowadays is that not many kids can go in the backyard and practice what we do without going to jail. So when it comes to practice, if we have an opportunity to do a test shot, obviously we'll try to do a test shot. But as you saw me tell PJ in the video, typically we're out there at one shot, one kill. And we don't have an opportunity to do very many test shots. It's nice to have a location when we can, we will, but we don't necessarily always have to do it. And that's what really puts the pressure on all of us to get it done right the first time.
Now, Roberto, do you end up with an opportunity to practice before you take down some of these structures?
It may happen that in large projects, we make tests, but not related to the project itself. So once we have a chance, we have beams or concrete structure that we can use for testing purpose, then we have this opportunity. But also for us, the difficulty in our job is that you can not, you have only one chance to do it. Practice is possible, but not for the job you are doing. So sometimes we do, but it's not the rule.
It's pretty clear to me that experience is the main ingredient in success here. This is not something that you just go into lightly.
Yeah.
All right. Scott has got another question for all of you in the group, and I'll start with Jim here. Jim, have you ever turned down a large demolition job because explosive demolition was not a good option?
Yes, several. Lots of times you turn it down because there's no room to really do it, put the work to put it, or the structure doesn't lend itself to explosive demolition.
So in those cases, Jim, what do you do? What do they do next if explosives aren't there?
Take it down either a floor at a time or a high reach excavator or a crane and ball. You know, they're all different based on the circumstances. You know, in downtown New York City, they take them down a floor at a time, push all the debris down the elevator shafts or crane it down. So every job is totally different depending on the circumstances and the room around it.
How about you, Roberto? Have you ever turned down a job because demolition using explosives wasn't the right tool?
Yes, it happens frequently. Explosives are convenient for high structure. Normally, we are requested to do a job with explosive also for low structure. I remember once that I tried to convince the customer not to use explosive because the structure was really very was very short, but they want to make a show. That was in Imola in the racing, Formula One racing circuit. So I tried to convince them not to use explosive. They didn't believe me, and so they had the show. But the alternative for explosive is mechanical demolition. And but I guess that a demolition contractor must be prepared to do both. Explosive when possible and mechanical demolition. In fact, we also, especially when you work in very in difficult neighborhoods, we also do mechanical demolition as an alternative to explosives.
All right, thanks, Roberto. Our next question is for Ron, and it comes from Amanda, who is one of our previous presenters. Amanda is asking, are demolition explosives and the materials you work with less sensitive than fireworks and pyrotechnics?
Absolutely not. Amanda, I love you. Thank you for the question. Respect to different formulations, flash powder is by far the most sensitive. Armstrong mix, as you well know, is the most dangerous. In the explosives world, the manufacturers have the materials so that we can do a number of wonderful things with them. But in reality, It's all up to you, the end user, as to what you do with it and how you use it. They all will kill you. And it's very, very important that we express training before you ever put your hands on any of this material, because it will bite you and it don't care who you are. Copy that?
Loud and clear, Ron. Our next question is for Jim, and it comes from Ricky in Brazil. How do you tackle being the first at taking down some of these structures?
Well, experience always helps you applying some of the principles that you've learned and done before. And, a lot of study and a lot of forethought of the principles that you've learned on previous structures will apply it to something new and different. Gravity still works, explosives still work. And so you try and apply those principles and create a failure in the structure to allow it to collapse in the mechanism that you planned on.
All right, thanks, Jim. Our next question here is it's for Roberto, and it's coming from Blair in Canada. And Blair would like to know how you do underwater blasting with charges that sit above the rock and move the rock without drilling.
Shape charger is when the rock to be excavated is very deep, so it's difficult to drill a hole in it, and more than drill a hole, to load the hole after it's drilled. You use shape charges, which are sort of granite. Shape charges are projecting a piece of metal. The one we use is aluminum, because it's but can be also copper. This projectile thrown at a very high speed towards the rock creates a crater. The explosion gases enter this crater, enlarge the cracks, and the charge one above, close to the other, cracks are connected, and so the rock is broken. The quantity of explosive is normally higher, 5 to 10 times higher than the one you would need if blasting the rock with explosive into the hole. But you have, because you have no chance to use to drill the hole, that's the only alternative. This allows you to do underwater excavation quickly, and especially at the very high depth. We did a very interesting project in the US in Lake Mead, and we excavated from 80 meters to 100 meters without drilling a single hole.
20 meters of rock excavation without drilling a hole.
Exactly. One layer after the other. Took a while, was about 50,000 cubic meters, more than 1 year. But definitely that was the only possible way to excavate, to dig a hole at that depth.
Wow, that's an exciting project and a really interesting use of new technology. Our next question is for Jim, and it comes from Lawrence, who's in Alberta. Jim, what advice do you have for someone wanting to get a job in the explosives demolition field?
Well, I'd like to hire people that have some previous explosive experience, so they have a basic knowledge of it, and then try and find somebody, as Ron would say, with fire in the belly that wants to really do it and has a desire to learn it. But there's a small marketplace, so it's not like you need a whole lot of people to continue to do this. But again, you'd want somebody with some previous experience with explosives and a fire in the belly, and somebody that maybe has some engineering experience that really wants to do and learn this process.
All right, we have about 3 minutes left here, and our next question is for all of you, and it comes from Glenn, who's in New South Wales. Glenn wants to know, what has been your most challenging project? And I'll start with you, Ron.
The most challenging, the most challenging is being one of the most impressionable shots I've ever been on. I'll make it quick. I was invited in 1995 to do the 50th anniversary of the end of the war, and had Paul Tibbets and his crew and Gene Kranz of the Apollo 13 mission. And we set off a mushroom cloud, I'll leave it at that. And that, to this day, remains one of the most impressionable most god-awful things I've ever done in my life. And with this, I've got to say, Travis, we've got to continue this dialogue after this is over with. This has got to continue. We can't cram 70 years of experience in 3 minutes. So please continue this. Find those with a fire in the belly, get involved in our industry. Come see us. Thank you.
Certainly. How about you, Roberto? What's been your most challenging and exciting project?
Challenging, definitely this of the underwater excavation, because we had to invent and produce and test a shape charge for the purpose, which was not, results were not given because we had no previous experience. We had nothing to refer to. Nobody else had done an excavation at that depth before. And this was involving several aspects of the explosive sector, which was that of the physical of shape charges, so the physical of explosives. Fortunately, we are a few people in taking care of explosive business. We know each other, we help each other. I had a very good help to design the charge from France and Sweden, research institutes. And definitely this is an underwater, this deep water underwater excavation was one of the most challenging, but really because of the risk involved, because of the fact that you have no second chance. I would tell you that challenging is from the big to the small one, all of them. That once you have done it, once the structure is on the ground, you calm down. But before that moment, and especially after having fired the bottom, time stops. And so every single job is challenging.
And Jim, I'll let you have the final word here with what you found to be your most exciting and challenging projects.
One of them was Texas Stadium, where the Cowboys won some Super Bowls, and two of the rocket towers at Cape Canaveral.
What made those so exciting and unique and challenging, Jim?
Well, they were unusual type of structures. While they were steel structures, they were built differently than a standard building. And it was just the first time ever done at Cape Canaveral, and unusual steel sizes and configurations. So that always makes it challenging. And Texas Stadium was a rare type of structure with an unusual roof and unusual abutments. So that was fun and challenging as well.
Well, I really want to appreciate all of you online. We had at least 30 questions that we didn't get to for our panelists. So I know there's a lot of excitement and interest about the use of explosives in demolition. I really want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. If you're in the Americas, this morning, if you're in Europe, and this afternoon, if you're in Australia, wherever you are, thanks for joining. I really want to thank our panelists for a great discussion, and a special thanks to Roberto, Jim, and Ron for an amazing and entertaining look at how explosives are used in demolition. What a great segment, and we really appreciate you being a part of this. This wraps up the question and answer session for the series. We look forward to seeing you all back at another ISEE sponsored event, whether that's virtual or hopefully in person soon. Become a member of the ISEE and stay on top of the interesting things we do as explosives engineers and as blasters.
So thanks, Travis, and thank you for watching this episode of the ISEE Explosives Everyday series. Explosives are the ultimate power tool that help mine the minerals and materials that are used in creating many of the products and roadways we use each and every day. They help keep our towns and cities safe from avalanches. They are used to shape and improve the environment, and also military and demolition applications. And they're in some of our favourite TV shows, movies, sporting events and concerts. Our job as professionals in the explosive industry and at the ISEE is to ensure explosives continue to be handled and applied in the safest way possible, and to continue to provide the resources and tools needed to help advance the science and art of explosive engineering. If you're interested in finding out more about the International Society of Explosive Engineers, please go to our website, isee.org. You'll find information about membership, our chapters around the world, and other useful links, including a calendar of upcoming events, as well as conferences and meetings in our industry. Another great resource is the World of Explosives, where you can find information on using explosives safely, the most frequently asked questions from homeowners about blasting, how blast vibrations affect structures, and all the planning that goes into each blast. It's also home to Explosives the Power Tool. This is a video series covering the history of explosives and the technical advancements that have been made possible because of them. To check it out, visit explosives.org. So a special thank you to this episode's sponsors, LDE Global, Dyna Bell, OPIT Blast, Sigicom, and Accurate Energetic Systems. Before we go, here's a short video from Dyna Bell.
DataNet is proud to introduce the differential global positioning tagger as a new feature to their already market-leading DigiShot Plus 4G system. The process of tagging and hole identification is now made simpler with the differential GPS sub 1 meter hole accuracy. This unique addition to the DigiShot Plus 4G system takes away any possibility of human error during the tagging process, making mining simpler, safer, and smarter.
You have to be very quiet and gentle. You are building a new subway and you don't want anyone to notice. It's a surprise. That's why you have monitors that pick up on everything. You monitor and measure vibration, air blast, noise, dust. Nothing escapes you. You can be halfway around the world, and you still would notice every minor change here, right when it happens. People nearby don't notice anything, but you do. You make adjustments, so even less will be noticed in the next blast. What was that? A plane flying overhead? Small children playing. They're having fun. You blow up more of the rock, deep below the playground. Gently, quietly. It's a surprise after all. People appreciate you most when they can't see, hear, or feel you. The monitors show nothing, and that is everything. Infra, remote monitoring of construction sites, from Sigicom.
So that's it for this episode of Explosives Every Day. If you like this content, be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube, Facebook and LinkedIn pages to stay up to date with all the latest ISEE happenings. And be sure to check out all 10 of our episodes highlighting the different ways explosives are used around the world every day. On behalf of the ISEE, thanks for watching and we'll see you next time.